Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Okay.
Well, good after. Oh, why is it backwards? What the heck? Freaking StreamYard. Hold on. There we go. Alrighty. That looks much better. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Herald here on Badlands Media. I am your host, Jon Herold, and hope you're all having a good Thursday so far. Mine's pretty good. Had a pretty productive morning, I think. Been working on this little side project. I'm pretty excited about to get rolling, or at least like out there. I mean, it's nothing like crazy. It's a website type thing that I think will be a useful weapon for us. But yeah, what are you guys up to? Bass Burns, not to make today worse for you by bringing this up, but is there even a court type setting when TF does your stupid lawsuit shit move closer to real resolution so you can live life? Oh, I don't know how to answer that. Just waiting for it to go through the process. It's just ridiculous. Would love to get to a real resolution because just it's amazing to me. Somebody can find attorneys, get them on contingency, tell them like this big sob story about whatever, and they believe you. And so they think I just have millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they just go nuts. And I have to like go hire attorneys to like counter it and fight it when it's all based on like a provable lie. And then at the end of it, like I'm not even guaranteed to get any of the stuff back, like any of the money I have to spend to do it. It's like, well, if there's no money on their end to like, what is it? Restitution. It's just part of the justice system that doesn't really seem very fair. But anyway, why'd you bring that up, Bass Burns? Come on. No, but even despite all that stuff, things are good. Things are really good. Just staring at the hair sticking up my head. Do I have one? Oh no. What do I do? I got my beard brush though. Maybe I can comb it down with that. Oh yeah, look at that. Much better. Yeah, the justice system is incredibly broken. It'll happen, guys. I'm not worried. I'm really not. But I appreciate y'all and the thoughts. News-wise, I mean, it's kind of a slower news day, but there are some interesting things we can discuss. The media is starting to freak out over Kurt Olson, Trump's director of election security. And I think it's worth talking about that a little bit. We have the border lasers story is a weird one. So I think we'll probably talk about that briefly. What else? Russia's making some interesting financial stuff. So they had a memo that got leaked out where they might be returning to the dollar, which I find interesting. We'll talk about it when we get there, but the fact that they went through all that effort to like de-dollarize so that they could avoid sanctions. And now we have a story of some sort of Russian memo where maybe they're coming back to it. It just seems like a weird move for them to make unless there's something bigger going on, which we think traditionally in this community think there is. We have the SAVE Act stuff. We talked about this a lot last night, but I'll probably harp on that a little bit again today. Trying to see what else my headlines say here before I start actually going through. We do have a couple of interesting Truth Social posts. Virginia being ridiculous. Some contradictory and hypocritical stuff from the Trump administration. I think that's always necessary to discuss. Yeah, we'll see what else you guys want to talk about as we go through. Get ready. This is now the Salty Herold. I won't be too salty today yet anyway. We'll see how things go. Strength test. God gives us more than we can handle. Yeah. Matt Trump, I'll have to text you, but it's really not like earth-shattering or groundbreaking. It's nothing that hasn't been done before, but I think it's done our own way. I'll talk to you about it. Kurt Olson is a good dude. Saw him lots of times over the years. He's honest. No show on YouTube. What do you mean no show on YouTube? It says it's... Let me get you the link here. YouTube. Yeah, right there. Yeah, it just sucks you have to stress about it. I'm really not stressing. Hopefully you're more positive today like Zach and Brad last night. Your topics on DPH wasn't really what I wanted to listen to. That's fair. Nobody's forcing you to listen. You know, we're going to talk about the things that we find interesting. Everybody does it their own way. They talk about the topics they like. Some people only want to talk about the positive stuff, and that's fine. That's good. Some people only want to talk about the negative stuff. And, you know, I think you need a healthy mix of both to be mentally healthy, you know, because in the real world, not everything is bad and not everything is great. Like there's just this line down the middle. That's typically how things actually are. And it kind of ebbs and flows one way or the other as stuff goes on. So I think it's important to talk about the negative things too. You can't just avoid talking about it. And there are some realities that need to be addressed. Do we think Kurt Olson is okay and on the level? Says Phil Scarborough. I don't know. I don't know him personally. I think the fact that he's still like in Trump's orbit, you know, we'll get to this stuff. We'll get to it. Let me get a quick word from our sponsors. So we got those, and then we'll get right into the Kurt Olson story because the New York Times did a whole write-up on him. So first up, we got a little Rise attire on deck for you guys today. Get yourself some Sovereign Alliance gear.
What is the Sovereign Alliance? The Sovereign Alliance are a collection of leaders and countries that are aligned not in the vision for their countries, but against a vision that has been thrust upon them. I believe that the Sovereign Alliance is less a battle for something and more a battle against something. They are against globalism, collectivism. They are against the rules-based international order.
Sovereign Alliance, the latest addition to Badlands Rise merch, available now at badlandsmedia.tv/rise.
Badlandsmedia.tv/rise. They'll be at GART. You guys make sure you get your tickets. Badlandsmedia.tv/events. Gizmo's mom said Israel has Trump in their back pocket. The Rothschilds bailed him out. I never knew that. Just found out. That might be true. I don't know specifically what you're alluding to, but I see a lot of people talking about this. You know, there's a half the movement or a part of the movement, maybe not half. I don't know the specific breakdown, but there are a lot of people out there that think Trump is owned by Israel or whatever. Owned by the central bankers, and he's just doing everything at their behest. I personally do not believe that. I don't think there's actual evidence to support it. I mean, there might be some things, because it's hard to imagine a situation where somebody at Trump's level isn't like intermixed in some of these other areas in some ways. You know what I mean? But also the fact that we're even talking about how pervasive the Israeli, and it's not just Israeli, it's other countries too, but how pervasive like that kind of foreign influence is in our own government. I think that in and of itself is not by accident. And I think that's a good thing, because the more people that are having that conversation, eventually we could probably get rid of some of those issues. But we never talked about how pervasive that is until Trump got in office the first term and towards the end of his first term. I don't remember people talking about Israel and foreign lobbyists and all that stuff prior to that. I mean, I wasn't really paying attention either. But I think it's more by design than people give him credit for. Phil Scarborough still on board with the Sovereign Alliance. No one benefits from the current globalist system than China and the CCP. Why would they want to destroy that? Yeah, China's the hard one for me too. I did a whole article on this, right? Like, I kept getting told by people, what if Trump is working with Putin and Xi to, take down the global, I don't even remember what the Q drop said, and I kept saying, like, I just don't see the evidence. And I looked at a whole series of speeches from Trump and people in his inner circle, and it was all like, yeah, China's number one threat. China's number one threat. And I think that's true still. You could look at how Chris Paul views it. It's like the good twin, evil twin type thing. I mean, there's some evidence to suggest that for sure, but I don't know. There's also evidence to say that, like, yeah, there is some sovereign alliance stuff going on. Like this Russia story we're going to talk about, where they're potentially going back to the dollar. That, I mean, if that's not sovereign alliance comms, I don't know what it is. But I hear what you're saying. There's so many of these things that we are speculating on, and we're admittedly speculating on, that we may not get the answers to for some time, if ever. And that's what's frustrating, but that's just part of being in the info war. G good, CCP bad, John. That's what a lot of people say. And I can even get on board with that line of thinking. I can track with that. But we cannot say that we know with any level of certainty that that's actually the case. That is still speculation. We have to at least be honest with ourselves when we say that stuff. Zigzag. Dude, rare. I look as I'm usually smashing food in my face, but yep, you look pretty smoothie slicks there, Bubs. Thanks for the show. Interesting comment, but thank you. One more sponsor. We got Unicity. Love these guys. I'm actually really sad because I have but this is all I've been drinking since last Friday. Don't drink coffee anymore. And I feel, hold on. I didn't know that was a produced ad. So I'm going to restart it because it is a produced ad. 1 second. But this is all I've been drinking since last Friday. Don't drink coffee anymore. And I feel more focused since I've been taking it. It's been amazing. And so I would encourage you guys to try it out. This might be my new favorite thing. I'm so sorry for being so unorganized right now, guys. This is my new favorite thing. I want to talk about it today. Their sponsor, Unicity, changing lives. I can vouch for it. I am legitimately sad that I have very few pouches left. I even got some of these from my mom for Christmas. One of my Christmas gifts was more of the yerba mate tea. Did you know that 9 out of 10 adults have these metabolic issues that can lead to fatigue, brain fog, and even gut issues and mess with your mood and weight? That is where Feel Great comes in. A simple 2-step daily practice that's changing lives. More energy, no cravings, clearer thinking, and no more stubborn belly fat. Imagine waking up ready to crush the day and shed a few stubborn pounds without crazy dieting. If you want to feel great and support the show, head to badlandshealth.com, lock in $70 off today and all future orders, plus a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's badlandshealth.com. Yeah, sorry, there's a new ad, and sometimes when we get new ads, we get new ad reads. And so the first time I do those ad reads, especially if they're hybrid, like part produced, part not, and I don't pull them up like ahead of time, that'll happen. It's only a little produced also. Thanks, Jessica. That was my bad. Okay, let's talk about Kurt Olson. This story in the New York Times. So when the New York Times is writing about you, they're concerned. It's a similar model to what we saw with Tulsi Gabbard, where all of a sudden she's in orbit around the election stuff, and we have hit pieces and everybody freaking out. And now here they're, once again, the mainstream media, the enemy of the people, the fake news, they're coming out laying some groundwork of discrediting Kurt Olson. Like, oh, he's just been a conspiracy theorist this whole time. Trump's director of election security is an election denier. And I would say the New York Times are election fraud deniers. But anyway, even in a government full of conspiracists, Kurt Olson stands out. He made a key referral in the Fulton County, Georgia election case. One of the more extraordinary aspects of President Trump's second term is this. Some of the most far-out election conspiracists, I'm like shocked that I'm saying that word right. Conspiracist is not an easy word to say, but here I am. I'm crushing it today. One of the most far-out election conspiracists who helped him spread lies about the 2020 election and then tried to overturn it are now inside the government, using the power of the state to keep Mr. Trump denialism alive. This dynamic came into focus on Tuesday when an unsealed FBI search warrant affidavit revealed that the recent criminal investigation into the 2020 election results in Fulton County, Georgia, had been instigated by Kurt Olson, a rather prominent character in Mr. Trump's election denialism movement. Mr. Olson, who is a lawyer, was considered by people in the first Trump administration to be a fringe menace. Ooh, I wonder who called him a fringe menace. Hold on. This is from 2024. Gosh, Maggie Haberman, Jonathan Swan, those douchebags. You know what? The word menace is not even in this article at all. Here we go. Fringe. Even in Mr. Trump's world, Mr. Olson is viewed as something of a fringe figure. So they quoted their own article and they didn't even have the word menace in there. That's so dumb. Anyway, in the second Trump administration, he is the director of election security and integrity with the power to refer criminal investigations into things that have been thoroughly debunked. I love how they keep saying that because it's not actually true. None of this stuff has been debunked. None of the stuff has actually had an opportunity to be presented to get to the bottom of it. No matter how many times the results of the 2020 election have been rehashed, Mr. Trump's fixations have not abated. Mr. Olson's position is proof of that. But he is not the only one. The president has installed proponents of his fraud claims all across his administration, and increasingly he has started to cast doubts on the coming midterm elections as Republicans face potentially big losses in November. Mr. Olson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Asked about Mr. Olson's role, Davis Ingle, a White House spokesman, said, "The president has the most talented and qualified individuals serving as part of his team, including Kurt. Still in the constellation of conspiracists, Mr. Olson stands out." Oh, I didn't know he was at the Election Crimes Summit in 2023. Kurt Olson has a history of abusing his law license to spread lies about our elections, said Christine Pison. So is it illegal to spread lies like that? Like, is that actually a thing for lawyers to spread lies? Like, how is that abuse of a law license? Like, if you just do something in your legal capacity and it's a lie, that's abusing your law license? Because if that's the case, I could refer a few people who sent letters out to Badlands fans with some lies in them who happen to be lawyers. We'll address that once the case is over. Now he's using his role in the administration and the power of the federal government to take actions fueled by those same lies. It's part of a multi-pronged approach that threatens state power in our elections. Mr. Olson said his began career. We don't need to get into the history. I just love how they're framing this because they're so concerned about us actually getting to the bottom of 2020. It's never been more obvious. I mean, it was very obvious back in 2020. But if you were them, like from their perspective, why does, if you're so confident in the results of the 2020 election, if you are so confident that our elections are secure and we are getting the results that were, being presented, like those are the legitimate results, why do they care? Why do they care if people dig into it? You shouldn't care because the truth is like not afraid of anything. If the election results we're getting is the truth, then there should be no fear from anybody, no concern from anybody actually getting to the bottom of it, actually looking at it, some sort of audit, any sort of transparency. They're the ones that are so concerned about that. Like, isn't that ridiculous? That in and of itself is so obvious. They consistently and routinely lie about the stories being told about the 2020 election. Oh, it's already been debunked, all these things. That's not actually true. And even if it was, even if we had already gotten to the bottom of 2020, we went and counted all the ballots, all those things. If somebody wanted to do it again, it shouldn't matter. Because the truth doesn't change. The truth is the truth. But they're freaking out. We're starting to get hit pieces on Kurt Olson. They're preceding the narrative. And I wonder when they're going to start shifting this to like Like right now, it's concern over it's just a conspiracy. But when the narrative changes and we start getting stories coming out like, oh, yeah, there was massive fraud here. Look at what they did. Are they going to change their tactics? Because they're not going to be able to say, like, it's still a conspiracy. They're going to have to address the claims and the arrests or indictments or whatever that's coming out. Are they going to say it's like fake? Are they going to be the ones that are now election deniers or whatever? Are they just going to say it's political persecution? They're going to have some sort of story to tell their audience. And I'm just very curious to see how they twist it. Maybe they don't cover it at all. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see how they try to weasel their way around the narrative that, yeah, the 2020 election is stolen, and we have proof of it. And now we're seeing some accountability. Are they going to say the evidence is faked? Are they going to say Trump fabricated evidence or people in Trump's orbit? It's just going to be really interesting. Yeah, Bass Burns, did you see Noam is doing something in Arizona with local election officials as a news type conference? I did see that. There's a post, man, what was her name? Liz something? I don't remember the lady's name. Hold on. Noam, Arizona. Show you guys the exact one. Yeah, Liz Landers, that was her name. A source just passed along information about a press conference that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is having this Friday, 2/13, in Phoenix, Arizona. Topic is election security. Local officials will be joining her at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So what is that? Would that be like 1:30 Eastern Time? I don't even know. But this is, I mean, it's logical that we're going to get more than just Fulton County. Arizona seems like a great next place to go. And the question becomes, who's going to be the third? Probably Michigan. But I keep going back to the Electoral College map. 2020. Yeah, here we go. Interactive map of 2020. I love doing this exercise because this is how it looked election night 2020. This is Biden's the winner or whatever, all these things. But now we're going back and we're looking at Georgia. Okay. We're getting Arizona next, maybe. Perfect. All we need is 10 more Electoral College votes. It could be Minnesota, it could be Wisconsin, Chicago, Pennsylvania. Michigan would be good too. If all of those go to Trump, because you get to the bottom of the election fraud and all those things, this is when we have a situation where, okay, you guys been telling us that the election fraud is like, doesn't exist. But now we've gotten to the election fraud in enough states to show that, yeah, Joe Biden didn't actually win the election and it was stolen from him. That's going to break some brains, I think. And it's funny when you go and look at Trump's, let me find this thing here. Hold on. Back in, I think it was 2023 or something, Trump put out a report, summary of election fraud. And there's all these great quotes in here. And if you go down to Arizona's, hold on, I think it's on like page. Yeah, here we go. Arizona's quote is, "That which was originally void does not by lapse of time become valid." And I think it's so fitting because a lot of people are like, well, there's nothing we can do about it now. You know, I mean, that was so long ago. That was the excuse immediately after the election. There's no constitutional remedy to it, even if the fraud was true. Such a stupid excuse. If the fact is that Joe Biden didn't actually win that election, it was originally void in the first place. The lapse of time does not undo that fact, does not make it valid. But yeah, this is worthwhile. I'm going to post this in the chat for you guys. It's always nice to keep this handy to go through. Like Arizona margin call, only 10,457 votes. And there's a lot of shenanigans down that way. Zigzag wants to move to Arizona. Yeah, I don't know. She'll move to North Dakota. Get some more peeps we can hang out with up here. Texas Cat 17. Another news person or other's mom will be kidnapped for distractions. Yeah. And think about it too, going back to this map. So let's say we do get the situation where we get Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, 3 states. We have the Electoral College vote overturned hypothetically. Where do we go from there? Like you would have to audit every state, and you would also have to you can't move forward with a new election while just getting breaking news and all this exposure of how fraudulent the election system is. That's why exposing election fraud is just so important. Timing of it, I don't know. Is it going to be 4 midterms, after midterms? Obviously, I would hope before. I don't want to have to go through another fake election cycle. But and let's talk about that now, because the Save America Act is right there, front and center of the narrative right now. And I posted this last night to mixed reviews. Nothing I said in here is not true, though, by the way. Save America Act would be a good start. So I even tried to I'm being positive, guys. I understand. I'm recognizing it's a good start. And then after that, after you recognize a good thing, you can still recognize there are also other issues, which is what I tried to do. Recognize it's a good start, but let's not pretend it would legitimize our election system. And this is where I do think people are falling short, because the way people are treating this, the way politicians are treating this, the Save America Act is going to literally save America. They title it that. It's voter ID, and it's a Band-Aid on a amputation. This is not going to actually fix the problem. And we have so many things wrong with our election system. We still have rigged voting machines, mail-in fraud, ballot harvesting, ballot on demand printers, delays in counting, partisan election officials, lack of transparency, lack of proper audits, campaign fundraising fraud, rigged gerrymandering, flawed primary system, lack of accountability so far. We think that's coming. And obviously the corrupt media. You can't fix it step by step. I think it was Chris Paul in his article that Joe Biden was never president. He's the one he said it best. Election legitimacy is binary. You either have legitimate elections or you don't. And step-by-step fixes doesn't make them legitimate all of a sudden. And it may not even be possible to get to an actual election system that you can trust. That's the frustrating part. Even talking about a fraudulent election system, and we can get super close to this is as good as it gets, and that may not even be perfect. But that's reality. But yeah, the Save America Act, even if the House passes it, they brought it to the floor, a procedural vote, to vote on it. I hate how the House does things. They have a vote to allow them to vote on the actual thing later. They snuck in some BS in there too, so they're going to do funding stuff. But anyway, once they pass the House, which I'm sure it will, it'll be on the Senate. I'd be surprised if the Senate actually passes this. I really would. But if they happen to, we can at least be honest. We can celebrate the minor win of election voter ID while recognizing that, yeah, we still have a ton more issues on top of it. You can't be a little pregnant. Yeah. Election records are gone now from the 2020 election. Are they gone in Arizona? Didn't some of these states, weren't they forced to keep the election records? Spetzel, the mail-in part is slightly off. The Save America Act helps that significantly, especially in leftist places that only use mail-ins. But it doesn't fix it fully. Again, it's the binary thing. You either have a system that is legitimate, that you can, it's transparent, you can audit, verify, all those things, or you don't. And so, we've become so accustomed to allowing the little wins. We celebrate the little wins as if they're winning the Super Bowl. You're going to celebrate a preseason win. You can't expect me to celebrate a preseason football win the same way I would celebrate actually winning the football or the Super Bowl. But that's what I feel like when I post this and I get called a doomer, or somebody last night said they hoped I die sad or something. It's just awful. This is why we spent a lot of the show last night talking about the two camps, the black pillars and the cheerleaders, and somehow trying to operate in reality has you as like the enemy. But we'll see what happens. I'm curious. And Trump's narrative is obviously like, man, we must pass the SAVE Act. But as we know, Trump is the only one we can allow to get away with hoodwinking us. Because he's at least the only one we know is actually doing it. Or for sure doing it for whatever reasons. A couple of interesting True Social posts from Trump, by the way. Let's do these quick. AG Pam Bondi, under intense fire from the Trump deranged radical left lunatics, was fantastic at yesterday's hearing on the never-ending saga of Jeffrey Epstein, where the one thing that has been proven conclusively, much to their chagrin, great word, was that President Donald J. Trump has been 100% exonerated of their ridiculous Russia type charges. So again, as I've been saying for like 9 months, it's a hoax similar to Russia, meaning it's a narrative weaponized against Trump. It's an intel community, establishment, deep state, whatever. It's their narrative. They're weaponizing against Trump. And Trump is telling you that here. He's told you this multiple times, told all of us this. Actually, it is the slimeball Democrats, many of them big donors and politicians, that have been proven guilty. Republican loser, sanctimonious rhino Congressman Thomas Massie made a total fool of himself yesterday, fighting aimlessly against a hopeless agenda of hate and stupidity, as most clearly stated by his crashing job approval numbers in the great Commonwealth of Kentucky. Has there been a single period yet? There's been one period. Oh, and an exclamation point. Love his run-on sentences. Where a military hero opponent, Ed Galerian, is crushing him in the polls, he is now in wacky Liz Cheney territory. Nobody cared about Epstein when he was alive. They only cared about him when they thought he could create political harm to a very popular president who has brought our country back from the brink of extinction, and very quickly at that. In fact, this attempt by the Democrats to take away attention from tremendous Republican success is backfiring badly. Maybe they should focus on their request to open our borders to the world's greatest criminals, have transgender for everybody, or get men, no matter what size or strength, to play in women's sports. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. The only thing I do disagree on, though, is like him saying Pam Bondi was fantastic yesterday. I thought that was embarrassing for everybody involved. You guys know that. We watched a couple clips. That was ridiculous. I am no Bondi fan. And I'm not going to cheerlead for her just because Trump says so. We got this too from Trump. Relations between Venezuela and the United States have been, to put it mildly, extraordinary. We are dealing with very well with President Delcy Rodriguez and her representatives. Oil is starting to flow, and large amounts of money, unseen for many years, will soon be greatly helping the people of Venezuela. Marco Rubio and all of our representatives are doing a fantastic job, but we speak only for ourselves and don't want there to be any confusion about or misrepresentation. There was a story about a man named Harry Sargent III in the Wall Street Journal. I want to learn about that guy. He has no authority in any way, shape, or form to act on behalf of the United States of America, nor does anyone else that is not approved by the State Department. Without this approval, no one is authorized to represent our country. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I did not see that part, and I'm curious who this Harry Sargent III is. He's a Florida-based energy and shipping magnate. So I can relate, some, lotion magnate. Known for his multi-billion-dollar conglomerate in oil trading. Let's see what the story is. Must be this story, probably. Savior or supervillain? A Trump ally's gamble to unlock Venezuela's oil. I don't think I'm going to read this right now, but I'm curious. The Shire Reeves says the Epstein files have BS in them, but overall are not a hoax. Have they been weaponized against Trump? Yes, that is part of the hoax. That is the hoax part. There's still intelligence collusion, 100%. That's a great way to describe the whole thing, man. That's perfect. I have zero respect for Massie after he remarried a younger woman less than 14 months after his wife of more than 30 years died. Honestly, like, that part I don't even care about. Like, I'm not going to judge another person's like relationships and stuff like that. That had to be hard. You know, my godfather married for 30 years, like just salt of the earth, one of the best guys you could ever meet. I mean that genuinely. His wife passed away. My aunt, my dad's sister, she passed away from cancer, and it was like a long, like it was hard. It was very hard, and you know he was devastated. And the only thing that like pulled him out was a friend of his, and they like fell in love, and it wasn't long after that, you know, like they're together now. You know, like I'm not going to judge somebody for how they grieve. What I am going to judge though is Thomas Massey's actual like character and how he operates, and like totally disingenuous his concern over the Epstein files. And plus he's in government, so like I don't like any government official anyway. So the marriage thing, even though people like poke at that, I understand why they do. I think I've even made jokes about it too. That's not actually a concern of mine. I'm not going to be one to judge on that. Spencer, the traditional time frame was 1 year after being widowed. And see, there shouldn't be a traditional time frame on any of that stuff, you know? Like people get judgmental about it, and I get it. I get why people do, but people in the moment in the relationship, they don't care. They shouldn't care. Shouldn't care what other people think. I know I certainly don't. HRBL Amand. I judge Massey because he's a fraud. Yep. He's not principled. A lot of people defend him still. And that's the thing. Like some of the best psyops, the people that are running the best psyops, they will do things and say some things sometimes that are like, oh, I love what he says. I agree with this. But then when you look into it, he's a hypocrite, just like everybody else in office. They all are. Yeah, and if some people never remarry, like that's totally up to you guys. You know? Life is different for everybody. Everybody handles grief differently. There isn't really a set standard on that. Or there shouldn't be. Let's go on. I have more stories, guys. This whole border story of the like the drone laser thing is so weird to me. It was DJ who sent me this on Twitter or told me to talk about it. Border officials are said to have caused El Paso closure by firing anti-drone laser. People familiar with the episode said the use of the technology was not coordinated with the Federal Aviation Administration. Officials argued what they thought was a drug cartel drone, but turned out to be a party balloon. Like what? The abrupt closure of El Paso's airspace late Tuesday was precipitated when Customs and Border Protection officials deployed an anti-drone laser on loan from the Department of Defense without giving aviation officials enough time to assess the risks to commercial aviation. Like, I just think it's awesome they're using drone. We've seen so many stories recently about lasers being used in like as weaponry. Like, I don't remember a time prior to this year, or maybe last year even, where like multiple times in a row we've gotten stories of laser weaponry, and now it's common. This is like the third time this month. Oh, Badlands Media rated the stream. What show was going on? Yeah, but yeah, it was a party balloon. Like, how do you mix that up? But hey, you can't trust a balloon. You guys remember the story of North Korea sending poop balloons over the border to South Korea? Got to be careful. Never can be too careful with those balloons. There is a story in the New York Times. I can't even get good access to it though because it's behind a paywall. But somebody should go in and find it. The FBI, like, they went through and broke down the FBI. Here, let me just show you the actual title. The FBI affidavit on the ballots in Fulton County. Come on. The title of the story is How an FBI affidavit to seize ballots relied on debunked election claims. And I'm very curious to see what they said was debunked. Kind of fits into what we were talking about earlier. But I'm not going to get around the paywall. And even getting behind the paywall, it doesn't show you like their notes of it. So somebody should do that. I'll send you guys the link. If any of you guys have New York Times subscription. What else? Hold on. Oh, yeah, let's get to these stories. Kremlin memo proposes major U.S.-Russia economic reset, including the return to the dollar. An internal Kremlin document reviewed by Bloomberg outlines a proposed economic partnership with the Trump administration that would include Russia rejoining the dollar settlement system as part of a broader post-Ukraine war agreement. The memo, circulated among senior Russian officials, identifies 7 areas where Moscow believes U.S. and Russian economic interests could align following a peace deal. Central to the proposal is restoring Russia's ability to transact in dollars, a dramatic reversal from Moscow's recent push to move away from the U.S.-led financial system, the de-dollarization. Like, the fact that this is even being discussed is wild to me, because how Putin has basically survived the Biden administration, and the reason Putin is at odds with the globalists and the deep state and everything is they couldn't control him. And the enemy's method of control has always been the sanctions, the economic stuff. They are able to dictate who a country has in control and what a country does by like squeezing the economic levers. Like you look at Venezuela, that used to be a very wealthy, rich country, and then you get sanctioned because what's his name, Maduro's not playing ball, or whoever before him. And look at it now; it's a shithole. And this is not like scientific language. I understand that, but you guys get the idea. Putin made it like a point of how, okay, well, they can sanction me. It doesn't matter. We don't rely on them anyway. They're sanction proof. They've de-dollarized. So for them to be willing to go back, it's shocking to me. And it's more so even as in terms of a sovereign alliance proof. If you're Putin and you are observing like just everything on a narrative basis, the narrative layer, Trump's in office now, his term ends in 2028, we're told. How do you have any assurances that as soon as Trump's out of office, we're not going to start sanctioning you again? Like, why would you allow yourself to be put back on the dollar system and the threat of sanctions working? Why would you allow yourself to do that unless you knew that there was something that would prevent that from taking place? Like something was different, something was changing about our I guess I don't want to say electoral system because it's not just that, but how our government operates as a whole, you know? So this is more indicative of that to me than anything else. Does that make sense? Like the fact that he's even willing to do this, if it's even a real memo. We've seen things like this leaked all the time. And we've seen memos come out of like peace plan proposals that don't actually come through or come to fruition. So it could be nothing. But the idea that this is real, if we toy with that a little bit, it's a juicy thought. And I think a pretty solid sovereign alliance proof. Does that make sense? You guys need to dummy check me. Wahlberg Forge says 1.3 thousand watching and 235 likes. How is it so hard for everyone to hit a fucking like button? You know, man, I always wonder that too. But I know some people watch on their TV. Some people are listening in the car. Can't force everybody to do it. Yeah, it's pretty accessible to hit that like button. And it's truly appreciated when you do. Helps get the word out there. U.S. men's hockey plays Latvia at 3:10 p.m. today. I do like watching hockey. That's not even going to be a game, though. Is Latvia any good at hockey? John just wants retards to out themselves. Yeah, if you got a New York Times subscription, let me know. Russia is resource rich, kicked Soros out of the country, and doesn't need the petrodollar. Yep, spot on, Bay Arthur. Q awakening, now that alternative methods of trade have been well established, they can also rejoin their other network. Russia has the option to do both. It's also very true. It's also very true. So I don't know. It's just such a... I want to actually see the memo. You know? I mean, maybe they have access to it. I don't think they do. And again, the memo, we don't know if it's actually going to be what ends up happening. But this whole Ukraine-Russia war, it's almost become a back issue now. Like that's still going on. Like nobody cares about it because of all the other stuff happening in the info war. Trump doesn't talk about it as much. The geopolitical stuff has almost become secondary, which in a way I think is nice. It's important. There are some issues that we should be focusing on at home, and I think it's important to have people's eye on the ball on. But yeah, the document envisions joint oil and LNG ventures. Makes sense. Cooperation on offshore and hard-to-recover reserves, and compensation opportunities allowing American firms to recover past losses in Russia. Interesting. It also proposes long-term aviation contracts to modernize Russia's aircraft fleet, with potential U.S. manufacturing participation and preferential conditions for American companies to re-enter Russia's consumer market. Oh, and these next ones are the big ones. Other areas include cooperation on nuclear energy, including AI-related projects, partnerships on critical raw materials such as lithium, copper, nickel, and platinum, and a joint push to promote fossil fuels over climate-focused energy policies favored by Europe and China. The memo argues Russia's return to the U.S. dollar system would expand its foreign exchange markets and stabilize its balance of payments, while strengthening the dollar's global reserve status and potentially reducing global trade imbalances by leveling energy costs between China and the United States. The proposals come as U.S. officials consider gradual sanctions relief as part of any Ukraine peace agreement, which is a prerequisite for restoring Russia's access to dollar transactions. It's also interesting. What else? We got Trump met with Netanyahu yesterday. They held closed-door White House meetings focused on trade, or Iran talks, sorry. President Trump met privacy with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, since I identify as a illegal alien black trendy Jew, how do I refer to Netanyahu now? Like, is he my, like, Father Yuhu? Like, what do I haven't, like, got read up on all the specifics now that I am Jewish. If anybody knows, gotta let me know. I missed that email. Like, I didn't get a acceptance letter or anything yet, so still waiting on it. Yoo-hoo. Anyway, President Trump met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on Wednesday, insisting that U.S. negotiations with Iran continue over Tehran's nuclear program. Trump said he urged Netanyahu to continue negotiations to see if a deal can be reached, writing on Truth Social after the meeting that there was nothing definitive reached beyond pushing talks forward and saying a deal would be preferable, but the outcome remains uncertain if negotiations fail. He referenced prior talks that ended before U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities during last year's Israel-Iran conflict. Doesn't it kind of feel like we're just in the same position we were with Iran, based on the narratives here? Like, prior to us bombing their nuclear facility? Like, we were told for years, decades on end, that Iran was they're just that close to having nukes. And if they get it, everybody's dead. And so we need to go to war against them always. We need all your money. We need all your weaponry. We need your fighters to come and fight this war against Iran to make sure that they never get a nuke. And then all of a sudden we bombed their nuclear facility. And that should have been like, okay, well, considering how long it took them to get from point A to not even reaching point B, having nukes, now that we sent them all the way back to point A again, like, why are we acting like the whole nuking of their facilities never happened? Like, that was supposed to be the fix. So there's something weird. It's like I don't know what it is. I don't just want to come out and say it's all a psyop, because it's probably what it is. But just even engaging with the normie narrative of it, it seems silly. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's almost as if we never bombed the facilities. Like, that's where we're at. Israel is acting like they're still on the cusp of having nukes again. Did we actually bomb the facilities? I don't know. Lee Walden says, for $2, thank you, sir. Always appreciate your guys' support. We pray for the awakening when the promise of America can flourish and share with humanity. Amen. Men's hockey team loves America. Yeah, I love watching hockey. Watching playoff hockey. My Wild are doing good this year. Maybe we'll get past the first round of the playoffs, which would be amazing. RT John is Badlands going public? No. Definitely not going public. If you can't hit the thumb, you have no balls, ladies. Or trying to see. Wahlberg Forge, 2 weeks away from nukes for 3 decades. Should we move the doomsday clock again? 2 minutes to midnight, Iron Maiden. Market guys trading like we're going to war. Yeah, there was a guy in Poly Market or Kalshi or whatever who put $100,000 down that we were going to bomb. I think I talked about it on the show. We were going to bomb Iran by the end of the day, that day, and that was like Monday or last Friday. So somebody thought it was going to happen. What a dumb bet. Josie Wales says Bondi docs survivors, Cash committed perjury, both need to be fired. Trump is either a swamp creature or the swamp is still immune to politics. I'm no Bondi simp. I'm also like, I know Patel Patriot, Cash Patel. He's my boy. I wish he liked me and didn't hate me, but he does. He's made it very clear that he has nothing to do with me and I have nothing to do with him. If he wants it that way, that's fine. It's probably a win for me right now, considering. But I don't think he committed perjury. I also don't think Bondi. I think that's a little bit of a harsh narrative in terms of doxing the victims. But maybe it's not fair of me to say that because I haven't even actually gotten to the bottom of that. I haven't read into it, so I'll have to do that before I comment on that. But I did see something interesting that all the victims they had at the hearing yesterday, they were all adults at the time the stuff happened. I'm not to say they're not still victims. But the narratives being pushed about it don't align with the reality of what those people were. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be insensitive. Probably comes off as insensitive, so apologize if that's the case. To nobody, I don't apologize to anybody. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, if it's true that none of them were actually underage, that changes kind of the story. Nobody's talking about that. And also, these victims, like, they keep doing these press conferences and we got the names, we're going to name the names and all whatever. Why don't they just name the names then? I don't understand. See you later, Bass Burns. Have a good day, man. Oh, did I forget to check silver? We've had no update on the Doge website. Silver, what we at? Ooh, down 77, gold under 5. Trafficking adults still legal. Yeah, I'm not trying to say that's not illegal. But I mean, I'm like, there's a misalignment between how people are representing them and what they are in terms of age. And I'm not saying they're not still victims. I don't know how to describe this. You guys know I'm not always the best with words. But there's clearly not being done here against Trump and his administration. Okay? And they're being used as props in that op. And that's unfortunate. Like, I don't want to see any victims be used in any way. But there's something about the whole thing smells fishy to me. I hate to be the one that says it. I almost feels like back when the whole Charlie Kirk assassination happened, and we were like, yeah, this whole Eric Kirk thing, it feels weird. Like, there's something weird here. And everyone's like, oh, you're so insensitive. Her husband just died. Like, let her grieve and all those things. But now it's totally socially acceptable to be like, yeah, something felt weird here. Something's weird here. That's how I feel about this too. Like, Jordan's done some interesting research into like Soros NGO connection stuff. I don't know. Maybe I should just shut up. Q Awakening, was there a stock market crash this morning that no news outlet is talking about? Oh, you know what? I think I have an interesting story in line with that. Did you know that if you exclude healthcare jobs, and you guys know how I feel, and I'm assuming you guys feel similarly about the healthcare system, and it's like a racket. But if you exclude healthcare jobs, The U.S. labor market has declined for 24 months straight. Everything is not fine. That's interesting. Healthcare and private ed is going up. Everything else is declining. That's a concerning trend, especially when you look at healthcare, or not healthcare, private education. Look at this story. The bill that Trump signed into law, the fiscal year 2026, Trump signed $79 billion education funding bill into law. The budget funds the education department at $79 billion through September 30th. That is $217 million above the fiscal year 2025 levels. The funding plan does not stop education department moves to transfer statutorily required program responsibilities to other federal agencies, but it directs the agencies involved to provide Congress with bi-weekly reports on the implementation of any interagency agreements. It's just weird. It feels a little weird to be funding a department that we're told to be shutting down. Hopefully I'm not alone in feeling that way. Dow down 500 points, not a crash. What website do you guys use? When you look at stock market, what's your favorite one? If you're Natural Nikki says, if you're snagging new girls under threat, you're a victim. If you're snagging new girls for money, you're a madame or co-conspirator. Yeah, that's true. Spencer, healthcare jobs are only going to die off or increase until the boomers die off. Yeah, Bitcoin crypto sell-off. There's a really interesting article. I should find the link for it. I don't remember who sent it to me. About Bitcoin and the sell-off and kind of like how psychology works with that stuff. HRBL Amand. Yes, Trump's the economy is amazing thing drives me nuts. It is a little frustrating. And this is where it comes back to what we talked about yesterday on the show on the Power Hour. Like the two camps, the cheerleaders and the black pillars. And they don't allow you, like they hate you if you try to talk realistically because there's no social incentives behind people who talk realistically. All these social incentives and financial incentives are on the people who only cheerlead or only black pill. Like being like, yeah, Trump is implementing some awesome moves here. It's great. But also, like, I personally do not feel that things are just great right now. And I know a lot of people are feeling that way. I know it. A lot of people in our audience. It doesn't feel like everything is sunshine and rainbows. Or what do I say? Rainbows and butterflies? It doesn't feel that way. There are a lot of concerning trends. And again, a lot of issues that need to be dealt with. And sitting here saying like everything full control, trust the plan, it's all going to be good. I don't think that's benefiting anybody. But hey, people are going to do what they're going to do. It's not my job. Keto Higgins says for $1, everything around the woman and Charlie Kirk smells fishy. I think that Candace followers prefer Black and Snapper. That's terrible. Frederick Leathers uses the stock market app that came with the phone. What about the shit posters, John? Shit posters are awesome. There is no bad time for a joke, good joke, or a bad joke. There's no bad joke. I mean, not everybody's going to laugh at it, but there's no bad time to drop one of those. Be careful of, Rebel Nader says, be careful of those who say they love Trump because love is blinding. Yeah. What about manufacturing? CanCon said that went up. I guess I haven't seen numbers specifically on that. Phil Scarborough would have been a lot worse if Kamala wouldn't been installed. We'd all probably be in the gulag. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a cop-out. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I mean, it could have been worse if this other thing happened. But yeah, that thing didn't happen. And so, like, we can still recognize the issues that we're actually facing here and not just, okay, sit down, shut up, be happy, because at least that didn't happen. I don't like that approach. Rebel Nader follows it up with, well, I don't like what he's doing, but I love him, so I'm going to support him. Give me a break already. Yeah, that's how I feel. Like I love Trump. He's awesome, hilarious. I think there's something bigger going on behind the scenes, despite what some people say. But I can simultaneously be like, but also, until whatever's going on behind the scenes happens, the thing that we don't know about or aren't read on, there are some things that are pretty shitty. Lee Walden for $5 says, John, if I may, would you consider to do a segment that you could share during weekly research, one day a week, a little dig and convey your methods and madness, like an online research project? Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do that. When we were getting hot and heavy D-class stuff about the RICO case, which they've been eerily quiet on lately, I have my mind map, but my mind map's basically been frozen in time until we get more declassified stuff. I like the idea, and I do like just engage with you guys. So Rebel Nader, what's the first symptom of AIDS? A pounding sensation in your ass? Oh, you're terrible, but that was hilarious. Spetzel, GDP is already through the roof and going much higher. Job numbers are steadily and sharply improving. Inflation in check. Economy still has instability of the past decades built in, but strong as it's been. You know, I don't love using GDP as an indicator of like things being good, because there are some aspects of it that's like, yeah, that's true. But government spending being part of the equation gives me big concern, because you can spend your way into high GDP numbers. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's the best indicator. Miss Truthbomb, good to see you. Miss Truthbomb says, John, doesn't archive.ph or archive.today allow you to view paywall articles? It does. I usually use archive.is, but even so, sometimes like the format in which they archive them, depending on how the article is written, you can't see certain things. And then this one, they like basically just went page by page, apparently through the affidavit from Fulton County and like left their notes on it. And it doesn't populate. This is, let me see if I have the thing, right? Archived it. Oh, I exit out of it. Yeah, it just doesn't load. None of their comments. Trump proved a businessman is better than a politician, so why are a lot of people wanting to go back to letting another politician? I agree with that. Frederick. T. Screwrow, 2019. Truth be known, probably most of the GOP senators want to vote against the SAVE Act because they get elected by the same fraud. 100%. Rebel Nader, exactly. If I'm not in on it, then I'm going to have my opinion. You are allowed that opinion. Bay Theater Dave, polling numbers are fake and gay, so is our economy. And you know, another difficult thing about the economy stuff, like a lot of the investment is in AI. It's in the tech world, the tech bros. How many of us average Americans are actually feeling the windfall from investments into the tech stuff? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Unless we have some like tech bros in the chat. But is Apple's stock or Tesla stock going higher? Is that feeling good for you? I mean, if you own Tesla stock, yeah. If you own a lot of it, yeah. But how many people do? There are everyday Americans that can't even afford to buy Tesla. So they can barely afford to get by on a day-to-day, let alone buy Tesla stock. So like when you hear people like Pam Bondi being like, the Dow is over 50K, it's a pretty remarkable thing. I can't believe she said that. Hilarious. She said that. But the average, I think, and I'm speaking, you know, don't want to speak for anybody, but at least to me, it's like, I don't feel that. That doesn't necessarily have an effect on my day to day. You know, that's not, the Dow being over 50K is not going to help pay the rent this month. You know what I mean? See you later, Artsy. To Joan. Oh, thanks, Q Awakening. John's idea on DPH yesterday about us being active chess pieces with free will to move on Trump's 5D chessboard was absolutely brilliant. I appreciate that. We should probably clip that out, huh? Did I have any other stories I wanted to get through? Probably. Let me double check. I do want to ask this. I see a lot of speculation about there being ongoing investigations, and Bondi alluded to that yesterday with the Epstein stuff at our hearing. If there were actually ongoing investigations, because again, a lot of the people are using the excuse of, well, obviously the names are redacted because there's ongoing investigations and you can't reveal that stuff. Well, if that's true, as people are kind of running with that story, how come Congress is now being allowed to look at the fully unredacted files? There's something about that just doesn't make sense. I wish we could get more clarification on it. But I just wanted to point that out. That's my question. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if there were ongoing investigations. I tend to think there's not. And I think the reason I feel that way is because Congress is being allowed now to look at the fully unredacted files. When in the past we've had stories, well, we can't show you. This is an ongoing investigation. You know what I mean? Tom Homan announced an end to the immigration enforcement surge in Minnesota. A lot of people are thinking Trump bent the knee. Not a lot. Some people are saying he bent the knee, but local law enforcement is finally cooperating. The jails are cooperating. That's why they don't need them there. They're actually finally doing what they're supposed to be doing. And guess what? If they stop doing that, I bet we'll go right back in. Virginia House Democrats passed a sweeping gun control package over GOP objections. Measures include an assault weapons ban, expanded gun industry liability, and new storage rules as Republicans warn of constitutional challenges. That is super gay. Apologies to any Virginian. Ghost, he's probably on. Does he have geopolitics with Ghost today? Trump's making an announcement. What's he announcing? And then I'll get you guys out of here and we'll go raid the other channel. I think that's all the stories I really wanted to talk about anyway. So yeah, guys, hit that thumbs up. Do me that favor. Real quick, one more soft disclosure plug for the beard oil brush. Absolutely love these things. Fellas, quick question. Is your beard intentional or is it just happening to your face? If it's dry, crunchy, or doing whatever it wants, that's not rugged. That's neglect. Soft disclosure beard oil fixes that. A few drops softens the hair, conditions the skin underneath, and takes your beard from chaotic to dialed in. No grease, no overpowering fake scent, just clean ingredients that actually work. And now we've added the upgrade, the new Boar Bristle Beard Brush, engraved with the Soft Disclosure logo, proudly made in the USA. Got real bristles, real control, distributes the oil evenly, trains the beard. Just awesome. I love having a beard brush now. Use it all the time. Basically, take it with me everywhere I go. When you grab the beard oil, you can add the brush for 25% off. Buy the brush by itself, full price. So do it right. Soft Disclosure Beard Oil and the new Boar Bristle Brush. Not to be confused with the Boar Bristle, whatever I said yesterday. Softdisclosure.com. Level up your beard game. And with that, guys, appreciate you. Hit that thumbs up. I'll be back tomorrow right here on the Daily Herald, 1 p.m. Eastern on Badlands Media. I'm going to raid you guys over to Trump's live press conference. I don't know what he's talking about, but I'm sure it's interesting. So you guys have a great rest of your Thursday.
0. 1.
Extra, read all about it.
2. 3. Let's get started.
That's what she said.
Oh, that's real good.
Why they stopping me? Stopping me.